The first championship game is the AFC Championship game happening Sunday at 3 p.m. on CBS. The Chiefs host the Cincinnati Bengals at Arrowhead Stadium, where they are 7-point favorites, and the Chiefs will now host their fourth straight AFC Championship game. Obviously, the Tyrann Mathieu injury, that's lingering. We're not sure if he's going to play. That would be a big blow to the secondary, put a lot more responsibility on guys like Rashad Fenton, Thornhill, and Sorensen. But obviously, you're going up against Joe Burrow. These two teams met back in Week 17. The Bengals won the game 34-7 at Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati, though, where Joe Burrow had 450 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and Jamar Chase had the game of the decade for a wide receiver with 11 catches, 266 yards, and 3 touchdown receptions. Also a game where neither team had a turnover. So I'm really excited that we get to see this one again. And if I'm the Chiefs, I want revenge.
This is so much fun, right? I'm so excited just talking about this. You're looking at Joe Burrow and you love it. I love it so much, and I want to root for them so badly in this game. But after what you just saw with Patrick Mahomes, how do you do it? Josh Allen was there sitting on the throne, and Patrick Mahomes said, "Nope, maybe next year, bud. Don't take my spot." It's so tough. It's so tough. And then you see in this Titans game, they allowed 9 sacks, and then all you're thinking about is that front defense of Chris Jones and Frank Clark and Jaron Reed just in Joe Burrow's face all day long. And it's so difficult, but it's so tempting to pick the Bengals in this situation. But the Chiefs proved a lot this weekend. I think that a lot of people are kind of going into this Bills game. A lot of people weren't hating on the Chiefs, but they're on the mindset of, all right, you had your time, fresh face, let's get the Bills in here. The Chiefs aren't going anywhere. They're just not. It's their time now. They are a dynasty, and they're not going away for a very long time. And I think when you break this team down, they have some weaknesses in the secondary. But Tom, something that I think I said last week in the argument with the Bills is that the biggest thing with the Chiefs, and which they did prove, is no matter how bad that defense played, Patrick Mahomes is the caliber player to get them back in and score the amount of points necessary to win the football game. And we saw that even with minimal to zero time left on the clock. They're going to do that. And I love Joe Burrow. I love Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, all those guys. But I don't know if you could do that against Patrick Mahomes in Arrowhead. A lot of things, like you said, James, earlier in your argument, you look at 9 sacks and you say, well, how'd they win that football game? Well, it's because the opposing quarterback threw 3 interceptions. That's not happening with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
It's just not happening. And I think that it's really difficult for me to pick this because I love Joe Burrow so much. I'm a big fan. But I got to go with Patrick Mahomes here. I have to go with Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right. Jason brings up a good comment about Tyreek Hill. Very, very, very fast player. Again, showboating a guy in front of him 20 yards out from the end zone. Not sure how there was no flag on that play, but Tyreek Hill is a fast man. Johnny.
He was throwing up peace signs, and he was behind the defender. He already knew he was scoring the ball.
Now, granted, the Bengals do have the better defense, only allowing 17.5 points per game, but we've seen that doesn't really matter because the Bills have the best defense in football, and my concern is, can Burrow hold up behind that offensive line? Chris Jones sacked him twice in Week 17, so this is definitely a concern for me, Johnny.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things you've learned in the postseason about these 2 teams. Nothing really phases Joe Burrow. I mean, he gets knocked down 9 times, he stands up 10. I think he'll actually have a couple of moments in this game because he's just had that kind of run right now. But he's going up against a Chiefs team whose offense right now is unstoppable. And yeah, I think Burrow can actually put up a few points. I think he'll make a couple of throws. I think he'll show some magic. But at the end of the day, this is not the same Chiefs team even in Week 17 or that we've seen even earlier in the season against the Bills. That would have been my comment earlier if I was picking that game. This is a Chiefs team whose offense is clicking on all cylinders right now. Defensively, they may not be, but this is the best they've looked all season long. Even at And so I think when you take all that into consideration, I just got to go. You can't go against Patrick Mahomes in this spot. As I said, I think Burrow will have a couple of moments because nothing has really phased him. But this is a totally different animal that he's going up against. So I'm going to take the Chiefs 31-17 and make it back to Super Bowl 56.
Like it.
All right, it's 2 for the Chiefs. James, where are you at?
Taking the Bengals.
Yeah, be the
Wow.
odd man
All
out.
right.
Being the odd man out. I'm tired of seeing Mahomes this, Mahomes that. Same thing with Brady. You guys know the drill.
Well, Brady was 20 years. Mahomes has been 4, man.
Yes, I understand that, Kyle. But you know what? Mahomes his fiance and his brother need to chill though out because it's getting enough with them with that whole clan over in Kansas City. Even though if they lose, the clan's going to get even more. Whatever. Burrow, yes, he got sacked 9 times. He probably went in there, ripped the offensive line to pieces, and their head coach probably ripped the offensive line to pieces. You will not see that again this game. You will see an improved offensive line. They know what they are playing against. Kansas City just had not a field day, but just went. Bills and Kansas City went off at each other. I think the Kansas City peaked. That's their peaking point. They peaked right there. We've been waiting all season for them to nearly destroy a team, but the Bills were able to match them. Kansas City peaked. They're now on the decline. I'm sorry. Bengals are on the rise. Bengals aren't hitting their peak yet, but they're going to surprise a lot of people this week and surprise a lot of Chiefs fans. Take the W at Arrowhead and surprise everybody. And Joe Burrow will be in the Super Bowl. The final score, 21-17, Bengals.
James, I'm rooting for you, man.
Wow, Chiefs.
It sounds. I mean, look. I mean, he sold me a little bit on that. And I would say one quick thing before I get real quick, Tom, is if this was any other situation, I don't think home field advantage would mean much, but I think it does mean a lot in this game because you've seen. Look how many road teams have won. We saw 3 of them win in the divisional round. But I think this is a totally different animal that he's going into. Yeah, the offensive line might play better in terms of not giving up 9 sacks, but they may not. They may have 9 false starts instead. Going in Arrowhead.
That's true.
That's the only thing. And like I said, neutral site game. I think James, you make a great point, but I think this might be one of the few times all playoff season that I actually think home field advantage means something because we've even seen it in the last couple of years. Home field in the NFL actually really doesn't mean much. It's been almost 500 road teams throughout. But I do think, real quick, home field will play something. And hopefully, Tom, I didn't steal your thunder in that. Go ahead.
No. All good. I think this is going to be interesting because this will be the first time ever that 2 teams who played on Wild Card Weekend will be playing in the Super Bowl, right? Because both 1 seeds are out now with the new playoff rules and everything. And granted, this was the first postseason in history that we didn't see just one seed fall in the same week. We saw both 1 seeds fall in the same day within 4 hours of each other within the Titans and the Packers. I think the Bengals are covering the spread. I do. I think Joe Burrow is going to surprise a lot of people in this game. I think he's going to torch that Kansas City Chiefs defense. And the reason why Joe Burrow was sacked 9 times last week, his porous offensive line couldn't keep up with a top-tier front 7. The Chiefs' front 7 is good, but it's not as good as Cincinnati's. However, you have Hill, you have Kelsey, you have all those weapons on offense. Cincinnati's defense, Lou Anarumo, if he pulls this off, he will be a head coach next season. If he finds a way to pull this off, he will be a head coach next season. But I have the Chiefs winning by like 3 or 4 points, sliding by. Again, the Chiefs have been very vulnerable to losing, playing down to their opponents this season. They lost 5 games this year. But I don't think they're losing to the Bengals a second time. Unfortunately, the Kansas City Chiefs will be appearing in their 3rd straight Super Bowl and defeating the Cincinnati Bengals. Give me a final score of 31-28 Chiefs.
The biggest thing is too, James, in the argument about they might not let up 9 sacks, but they'll probably let up 4 or 5. The biggest thing in this too is that with Joe Burrow, he made a mistake last week. He did throw an interception. He didn't throw any touchdowns. The guy on the opposing side of the field, I think his postseason touchdown to interception ratio, it's 23-1. He's thrown 1 interception in the postseason all these years. He has 1 interception. So any mistake that you make, it's probably going to cost you with Patrick Mahomes on the opposite side of the field.
I'm just saying, in James's defense, when he picks alone against us, more often than not, he's right.
I'm going to roll with that Steelers pick that he made earlier 2 weeks ago. I'm going to roll with that as my little defense.
All right, Russo. All right.
James has picked against the Chiefs now 3 times in the playoffs, and he's 0-2 so far. So things do happen in threes.
That is the charm, John.
Dear.
Again, it's interesting. But moving on to the NFC Championship game. That'll be Sunday night at 6:30 p.m. on Fox. Rams are favored by 3.5. They will be hosting the San Francisco 49ers, who defeated the Rams back in Week 17 in overtime to make the playoffs. 49ers outscore the Rams 21-7 in the second half. This was a game where Jimmy G threw 2 interceptions to just 1 touchdown, but he did throw for over 300 yards, found a way to win this game. Deebo Samuel had over 130 all-purpose yards. Jennings had 2 touchdown catches. Arik Armstead had 2 sacks. And Matthew Stafford also had 2 picks for the Rams to go with 3 touchdowns. So this is interesting. This is a divisional battle. They just met 2-3 weeks ago. This is their 3rd meeting this season. Did the 49ers beat them twice, or did the Rams win the first?
They beat them twice.
They did beat them twice. It's similar to the Giants in 2007, where Dallas beat them twice, right? They got obliterated by Green Bay, and then nobody thought they were going to beat Tampa Bay on the road. This is really interesting, guys. 49ers did make the Super Bowl just 2 years ago, and their roster is not very different from that team. They have a lot of the same players. So this is tough. Kyle, I'm going to start with you here and put you on the spot. Who are you taking in this football game?
Taking the Rams. I want to see another team represent their home stadium in the Super Bowl again. I think that's what a lot of people want as well. And what I also want is the best opportunity for a head-to-head Super Bowl of the best quarterback matchup. And I think out of the 4 teams remaining, Jimmy Garoppolo, it's Patrick Mahomes, Matthew Stafford, Joe Burrow, and then a far drop down, and then Jimmy G. I want to see it. And I love what the defense is doing. I love what their offense is doing. I love the game planning of Kyle Shanahan. I want to see the best quarterback matchup. And I know that with Jimmy Garoppolo in there, it's not going to be. We've seen the last 2 weeks, whether you want to, make fun about Dallas or make fun about what happened in Green Bay. While he made a couple great plays, he also made plays that probably should have lost him the game if the other team, fought back and made the plays that they had to make in those scenarios. Against this Rams team, we saw what they just did to Tom Brady. We saw what they did to that offensive line on the defensive side of the ball. We saw what the offense did to their defense in the secondary. And while the 49ers, they do have a very good overall defense, their bread and butter, their game plan is all in the pass rush. It's all about blitzing. It's all about Nick Bosa. It's all about Fred Warner. Secondary is good, but how good could you be against Cooper Kupp, Odell Beckham Jr., Van Jefferson, and Tyler Higbee? That's a tough day. That's a very tough day for any defense. That's up to any magnitude. I mean, we're talking about what they did against Green Bay, and we're downplaying Green Bay's opponents. Essentially, all you had out there, if that's your argument, is you had, Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams. Nobody else, essentially. Well, it's not too easy now, and now you're playing on the road in SoFi. And granted, if you remember the last game of the season in which they played, it seemed like more 49er fans were in SoFi, but apparently what the NFL is doing is that they're only making tickets available to LA residents. I don't know if you guys read about that. They're actually doing that.
Oh, yeah, because they want the Rams to host the Super Bowl.
They want the Rams to host.
Bullshit.
So
I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous. I think if your team is in a playoff game, you should be able to go root for them in person if you have the money to do so and if you want to go do so. But I want to see Matthew Stafford there as well. I know that I'm the only Odell Beckham Jr. fan here and want to see him reach the Super Bowl, but Matthew Stafford as well. I want to see him complete it because for a long time, when we look back in NFL history and we talk about teams that underachieved and we talk about players that underachieved, I think he's one of the names that is the head of the list. And I don't think it had anything to do with him. I think it had to do with the team and organization that he was being a part of. And now in his first season with the LA Rams, he's probably a top 5 MVP candidate potentially. He led the league, second in the league in touchdown passes, second in the league in passing yards. Phenomenal season. In a great system, don't get me wrong, with Sean McVay. But he's done everything right so far in the playoffs and what he had to do. I said it last week that he was going to have 300-plus passing yards and 3 touchdowns. That's exactly what he did, and he won the football game. And I think that it's going to be the same thing this week. This defense is tough. This team is tough, and Kyle Shanahan is one of the best coaches in all football. It's not going to be an easy out. But I think that the Rams had the edge due to their weapons, due to their quarterback play. And I want to see Matthew Stafford in the Super Bowl. I do.
Before we get to Johnny's prediction, Brian McArdle of From the Stand Sports just commented, Ticketmaster just stopped that earlier today, referring to the LA residents exclusive.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Johnny,
we'll
get to your pick.
It's weird because this is just like the other match where they both met in week 17.
Yeah.
I think the most important player on the field on Sunday is going to be Deebo Samuel. I mean, if he goes off again and does what he's done before, I think the 49ers will pull this off. But I tell you, I want to pick the 49ers so bad, but after I saw what the Rams did on Sunday and see what their weapons have and see what their ability is to get to the quarterback and stuff, I think it's going to be so difficult. God, it's so close. I could see this coming down almost really late, but I do think the Rams will pull this off. Something along the lines of like a 24-17 sort of matchup. But you know what? This is one I could see going back and forth. This one I'm struggling with more than the AFC matchup. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I want to see the 49ers do it. I'd love to see a 6th seed in the Super Bowl, but I just don't think they're going to be able to pull this one off this time.
James, what do you got?
I got Rams. Odell will be the number 1 target. 49ers will be able to lock down Cooper Kupp. You see Odell get like 150 yards with 3 touchdowns. Russo will be so happy. Rams 31, San Francisco 21.
Sports with iconic penalties.
Well, last year the Bucs acquired Tom Brady and went to the Super Bowl and won it. Well, the same thing's about to happen with Matthew Stafford. Yeah. Not only are the Rams going to make the Super Bowl, they're going to win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
They just knocked out Tom Brady of the playoffs. The only thing standing in the way of them is the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they're going to get past the 49ers. You just ousted Tom Brady. You are now the favorites, in my opinion. Okay? I don't care if the Chiefs beat Buffalo. The Rams are the team to beat right now. They beat the Bucs twice this season. They beat them in the regular season and in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. They have an elite defense that can not only – they should be able to take care of Jimmy Garoppolo pretty well. The problem is, can their offense solve the 49ers defense? It is going to be a close game, but I'm taking the Rams to win this game. It would be nice to see a Bengals 49ers Super Bowl, similar to Super Bowl 23 back in 1988, but I don't think we're going to see it. I think we're going to have a Rams Chiefs Super Bowl, fellas.
Agree.
Wow. Jason has 49ers 41-27. Jimmy G will be feeling himself back in California, and Stafford will collapse in the moment.
No, I don't think so.
I hate to say this. I could see that happening.
I that's why I was struggling with my pick, because I could see that absolutely as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. It is very interesting. You know, Rams had a tough road to get here. They beat the Cardinals at home, and then they had to go on the road to play Tampa Bay. They're back at home to play the 49ers. They have to beat them this time, right? They've lost to them twice. They have to know them in the back of their minds by this point. I know Sean McVay's probably been preaching that to them all week, but I'm going to go with the Rams here.